All right, guys. So it's the last recording of the lesson. So we're almost through the eras. Remember, an era is a point in time that is marked by historical or events. Okay. So we're at westward expansion, and that happened a long time, starting with the 13 colonies. We just expanded west, 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 west. It manifest destiny goes here. All of the acquisitions that we learned. Remember, this is American progress. So if I saw this picture, it would go with the era of westward expansion. We also have the Texas annexation. Remember, we had a war with Mexico. We had not, I'm sorry, not a war with Mexico. We had a Texas Revolution, and we ended up getting independence in Texas. And then once Texas got independent, we later annexed it or brought it in. To annex is to bring something in and make it a part of. So we annexed Texas, and because of that, Mexico and America had a war over border disputes over the Texas annexation. And then we also had trails that went west for the gold rush. When we got the land of the Mexican Cession, they found gold in that area. Remember, the 49ers is the football team for a reason because in 1849, they found gold and everybody rushed over there to dig it up and get rich. So that's why it's called the gold rush. And so these are acquisitions. We also had other acquisitions such as the Oregon Territory, which was a peaceful acquisition. We had the Florida Cession where we bought Florida from Spain. We had Mormon trails going west. They got kicked out for religious reasons and they went west. So during westward expansion era, we have a lot of westward moving because of manifest destiny, the belief that the U.S. had the right to expand regardless. Then we have the reform movement. Reform is to change something, and so it's the era in which things are changing. It's kind of like what we're doing now. We're kind of in an era of reform. A lot of things are changing in America right now. Like we have a lot of gay rights that are coming up. We have a lot of rights that are coming for people of color and people of different nationalities. So it's back then. It started due to a religious movement and people started really waking up like to say, oh, these things are wrong. So the way that women were treated were wrong. That happened during that movement. The temperance movement, men were getting drunk and going home and beating their wives and children. So there was a movement to control alcohol consumption. The abolitionist movement, people were saying, hey, slavery is wrong. Let's go ahead and do something about it. So they started the abolitionist movement due to things like Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, Frederick Douglass. All of these people were active abolitionists. Then we have an era called sectionalism. Sectionalism is loyalty to one section. Remember, we have the North, the South, and the West. Okay, so that would be sectionalism. And here are a few of the images that will go with that era. The Fugitive Slave Act. Remember, that's an act that took a lot of free blacks back into slavery because you couldn't fight your case to say you were a free person. So it's basically saying if you were caught anywhere, you got to go back to slavery. We have Uncle Tom's Cabin, written by Harriet Beecher Stowe, which awoke people up that, hey, this is not right. We have John Brown who tried to take over Arsenal, and it wasn't a success, but it was a big move for the abolitionist movement. We have the election of Abraham Lincoln, which really upset a lot of people, and so all of this is pushing us into what we're about to go into an era called the Civil War. But during the era of sectionalism, things it's like putting a band-aid on a big boo-boo. You ever had a big old cut and a little band-aid just wouldn't help it? It just made you bleed out even more. And then we have the bombing of Fort Sumter, which takes us to the era of the Civil War. That is a war domestically within our country. We have the Battle of Gettysburg, which we said get out of the North, and the South never was able to return. We had the Anaconda Plan. This goes with the Civil War as well. And the last one is the era of Reconstruction, where we are putting